So, part 2. Wow, we're back. It's been so long.
It's been so long since we recorded. I haven't spoken to you for a millennia.
For a millennial.
A millennial. For a millennial. We're all 30 now and our knees hurt. Well, most of us are 30 now. Previously on Trepanning. Is it Trepanning? Trepanning.
Yeah, tripanning.
Yeah.
Trepanning.
Trepanning. Just after hearing the bonus of us really failing to pronounce anything, I am now paranoid about how I pronounce everything.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And the never-ending blooper that will just keep getting added to. It's just, yeah. Crack out.
Krakow. Sarwin. Previously on last episode, insert clip here.
Yeah, like literally they survived to turn around and go, I made it! And then they just...
Yeah. Like, it hurts a bit.
I'm alive! There's a hole in my head, but I did... Like...
I die now.
I die now. Let me tell you where the treasure...
Whilst one poor soul had some 52 holes drilled in the head within a 2-month period.
How? How can someone live with that many holes in their head?
You know what I will say about surgeons from like way back when? They were quite happy to just do these wild surgeries on themselves. Like, I got it, don't you worry. Get me a mirror.
Right. Just give me a drill, get me a mirror.
Part 2.
Lobotomies? Live, laugh, lobotomy.
Lobotomies. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Say it again now.
A lot of people ask me, lobotomies, good or bad? And I say, always bad all the time.
Not good. Don't have. No lobotomy.
One again for this episode for medical history, mistreatment of mental health issues, and everything to do with lobotomies. Announcement! You've been warned.
Announcement!
Lobotomies. Firstly, the prefrontal lecotomy is a precursor to a lobotomy and was performed by cutting a trepan hole into the skull, inserting an instrument and destroying parts of the brain. This was later made unnecessary by the development of the orbital transit lobotomy, where a spike was inserted through the eye sockets.
Yay.
Fun facts. Came from trepanning, developed to eyeball. I mean, you're already quite close, aren't you? Saves you drilling a hole.
That, like, yeah, but, like, imagine, like, seeing the... I'm thinking about it.
I'm gonna be honest. Seeing the thing is probably not as bad as having your whole brain stirred up.
No, probably not, but, like, it's the fact that because of how it's performed, it is in your face. Do you know what I mean? There's no escaping it. Like, you are literally gonna see everything.
Yeah, you're still awake for eye surgery now. If you ever have to have a needle in your eye, you'll be like...
Yeah, no, but I don't...
Really? Can you not put contacts in?
No, I don't need to put contacts in.
I don't mind poking my eyes.
I don't mind poking, but it's the idea of something going in, round, like, shifting things around.
Getting all up in its business.
Yeah, getting all up in my grill, do you know what I mean? I don't need it, like, scooping my eyeball about.
Get a hobby, man. Stop creeping.
Get a hobby. Stop being weird.
Lobotomy, a surgical procedure that involved cutting or removing parts of the brain, was once popular treatment for a range of mental illness, including schizophrenia and depression. The procedure was first introduced in 1930s. It was believed to have a high success rate. You can believe whatever you want, you know? If your success rate is ruining a human being, then yeah, I suppose you have succeeded.
Have they calmed down? Can you now control your really upset housewife? Yes? Well, that's a win then.
The procedure involved inserting a sharp instrument, such as an ice pick, into the eye socket and then cutting through the thin bone of the orbit to access the frontal lobe of the brain. The instrument was then used to sever the connections between the frontal lobes and the rest of the brain, with the goal of reducing the patient's symptoms. Symptoms such as saying, I think it's a bit messed up that these things exist.
I'm a little sad today because my son was killed in the war. I know what's going to happen. Let's stir your brain up, that'll help.
So despite the initial success of lobotomies, the procedure ultimately proved to be ineffective and even dangerous. Who knew? Many patients experienced significant side effects such as personality changes, loss of motor skills, and decreased cognitive function. Who knew that would happen by disconnecting a full portion of the brain?
Who'd have thought that that's what would happen if you just beat on someone's brain and turn it into soup? with a stick.
The procedure was eventually abandoned due to its high risk and low success rate, and it serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of untested medical procedures. The fact of the matter is that it was used for a lot of time, and yet they were like, nah, it's a bit ineffective, shall we stop? Nah, let's go on for a solid 20 more years, and then we'll reassess.
Because, let's just reassess. Clearly, it's got to do something if it's suddenly making everyone not be able to walk or be themselves or...
The use of the procedure increased dramatically from the early 1940s and into the 1950s. By 1951, guess how many lobotomies had been performed in the United States?
I think it's got to be like 10,000.
20,000.
It's even bigger. Okay.
Almost 20,000 procedures have been performed in the United States, and proportionally more in the United Kingdom, which had a lot less population and did a lot more lobotomies.
More in the United Kingdom?
Yep.
Right.
A large number of the patients were gay men. Shocking.
Oh, shocking.
More lobotomies were performed on women than on men. Shocking.
Mm-hmm. Shocking.
And a 1951 study found that nearly 60% of American lobotomies patients were women. And limited data shows that 74% of lobotomies in Ontario from 1948 to 1952 were performed on female patients. So almost 3/4 on female patients in one state. Walter Freeman coined the term surgically induced childhood and used it constantly to refer to the results of a lobotomy.
I'm sorry, but that makes it sound like a good thing. Like, it's like trying to make it all dreamy. Like, oh, it's just surgically... What was it? Surgically forced?
Surgically induced childhood.
Induced childhood.
And it would be. It left you in a state where, you were essentially regressed at that point.
You couldn't look after yourself, yeah.
The operation left people with an infantile personality. A period of maturation would then, according to Freeman, lead to recovery. Weird kind of recovery, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In an unpublished memoir, he described how the personality of the patient was changed in some way in the hope of rendering him more amenable to social Weird that he uses the him pronoun despite the majority being women.
Yeah.
Rendered more amenable to the social pressures under which he is supposed to exist. He described one 29-year-old woman as being, following a lobotomy, a smiling, lazy, and satisfactory patient with the personality of an oyster. The patient could not remember Freeman's name and endlessly poured coffee from an empty pot. So this procedure was later described by one psychiatrist as putting in a brain needle and stirring the works, which is technically not incorrect.
No, technically not incorrect.
But wild how you would then be like, that's acceptable. The Portuguese neurologist Egas Moniz believed that patients with obsessive behaviours were suffering from frick circuits in the brain. In 1935, in a Lisbon hospital, he believed he had found a solution. I decided to sever the connecting fibres of the neurons in activity, he wrote in a monograph titled How I Came to Perform Frontal Lobotomy. His original technique was adapted by others, but the basic idea remains the same. Surgeons would drill a pair of holes into the skull either side or at the top and push in a sharp instrument, a leucotome, into the brain. The surgeon would sweep from side to side.
Just whoop, 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 whoop. Like a windscreen wiper.
Yeah. Pretty much like your butter and toast.
Like your butter and toast.
It would, well, not with actual butter. It would have to be like a Nuttily Butterly or a Flora Spreadable, because otherwise that ain't going anywhere.
I don't think you meant to do that to a brain.
We're not making jokes about the poor people that have been punished. We're making jokes about surgeons and horrible medical procedures.
If you don't laugh at some of these things, then you are just gonna...
Like in the great words of Jimmy Buffett, if we didn't laugh, we would all go insane.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Buffett.
Moniz reported dramatic improvements for his first 20 patients. The operation was seized on an enthusiasm by the American neurologist Walter Freeman, who we talked about, performing the first lobotomy in the US in 1936 and spreading it across the globe. From the early 1940s, it began to be seen as a miracle cure here in the UK, despite the opposition from some doctors, especially psychoanalysts, so some were aware it was not great.
No.
It became a mainstream part of psychiatry with more than 1,000 operations a year in the UK at its peak. The reason for its popularity was simple. The alternative was worse. So you're going to remember mentally ill people were mistreated to an extreme standard back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's a quote from Jason Bryce. He's a retired neurosurgeon. When I visited mental hospitals, you saw straitjackets, padded cells, and it was potentially apparent that some of the patients were, I'm sorry to say, subjected to physical violence. The chance of a cure through lobotomy seemed preferable to the life sentence of incarceration in an institution. Mr. Bryce goes on, he says, "We hoped it would offer a way out, and we hoped it would help." So that there is a part of it in which, like I have said in the past, they tried it with good intentions. I think there was a good portion that did it because they found it as a solution that we don't have to deal with these patients anymore. And there was another portion that was, we're just trying to help people. We didn't realise the problem. There were centres for lobotomy across the UK, in Dundee, North Wales and Bristol, but by far the most prolific lobotomist in the country or indeed the world, was a neurosurgeon called Sir Willie McKissock. Based at the Atkinson Morley Hospital in Wimbledon, he was one of the great men of medicine in the 20th century, says Terry Gold, who worked as his anesthesiologist. He believed his former boss performed almost 3,000 lobotomies as part of his famously speedy approach to surgery. It was a 5-minute procedure, very quickly done, said Dr. Gold, which is the anesthesiologist. So, as well as operating at the hospital, the doctor would travel across the south of England at weekends performing extra lobotomies at smaller hospitals. He was quite prepared to travel down to wherever the hospital was on a Sunday morning and do 3 or 4 lobotomies, not lobotomies, the one where you drill a hole first, and then drive away again. He says the operation could have dramatic benefits for some patients, including one who was terrified of fire. Funny enough, she ended up, after I had done the operation, very much better, but she went and bought herself a fish and chip shop with grossly hot oil in it. I don't fully believe someone had a quick lobotomy and then went to a chip shop.
I don't think that's possible.
However, he did have increasing doubts about lobotomies, especially for patients with schizophrenia. Psychiatrist Dr. John Pippard followed up several hundred of McKeosk's patients. He found that around a third benefited and a third were unaffected and a third were worse off afterwards. Although he himself had authorised the lobotomies, he later turned against the practice. So Dr. Pippard then says, "I got increasingly conservative about it because I don't think any of us were ever really happy with putting in a brain needle and stirring up the works. It's not a nice thought," he said.
I mean, yeah, it's not great. It's not a great thing to want to do to somebody.
So I think it's good that they were against it. It's weird that they still did it.
Yeah, like if you're like, no, this is bad, shouldn't do this to people, clearly bad idea to like stir up brain matter, why then continue to do it?
But I guess if that's like the medical practice of the time.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though, isn't it? It's like, obviously things at the time, they were so much worse than they are now. Like they said, there wasn't really the help, especially if there was people with severe mental health issues. It was like lifelong imprisonment. So I suppose if they think it's going to help and they've been told it's going to help, then maybe it is the better of two evils.
But then, lifelong imprisonment versus imprisonment in your own mind.
Yeah, it's a horrible toss-up.
Even if you don't have a mind anymore, you're not there, you're dead.
You're basically the personality of an oyster.
Which is an interesting way to describe a human being.
An interesting way of describing people. Personality of an oyster.
To describe a 29-year-old. So Mr. Marsh, who is now one of Britain's most eminent neurosurgeons, says the operation was simply bad science. I mean, yeah. It reflected very bad it reflected very bad medicine, bad science, because it was clear the patients who were subject to this procedure were never followed up properly. If you saw the patient after the operation, they'd seem all right, they'd walk away and talk and say, "Thank you, doctor," he observes. The fact that they were totally ruined as social human beings probably didn't count. So Monner's treatment was quickly celebrated as a miracle cure. A lot of things throughout history has been described as miracle cures. Miracle cures...
I mean, that's the thing though, isn't it? They're miracle cures until you find out what it's doing wrong. Like, like down the line... Like, when something clearly goes wrong and it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't.
I mean, I think anything throughout history, like, it's a miracle cure. It's a solution to a problem that you refuse to handle properly.
Yeah, basically. Usually.
Pretty solidly, yeah. So the reason for his brace was obviously unforgivable. One of the biggest problems for asylum psychiatrists was the management of disruptive patients. Short of physical restraints, there was no way to control those who were persistently agitated, noisy, violent, and self-destructive. Oh my gosh, in 1939, Monmouth himself was shot by a patient, leaving him partially paralysed. How did they have a gun?
I don't know. How did they just gun? Just, here you go, take this gun.
I suppose the guards just had guns back then.
Oh yeah, true.
It was before all the checks, wasn't it, really? So now, after a relatively now as in back in the day, after a relatively simple surgery, these patients could be rendered docile and obedient.
Words we love to hear.
The insistent din and commotion that had been so typical of mental institutions were replaced by a more agreeable hush. Patients who had smacked the walls, heard their food or feces, and shouted at one number of invisible spectres now sat calmly and quietly. Moniz's Lobotomy seemed to be the answer to psychiatrists' prayers. Watts described the miracle changes in people who were suffering mental torments one minute and the next placid and free of distress.
Because the brain's being scrambled. It's not a good thing.
What's crazier is that over time, as in not from the start, over time, progressively, as this kept on happening, Freeman and Watts made deeper and ostensibly more accurate incisions. So before there was no accuracy, and slowly but surely they thought maybe we should probably be a bit more accurate.
Maybe we should be a bit more specific about which part of the brain we're going to scramble.
They also replaced anaesthesia with an injection of Novocaine.
Oh, yay!
Oh yeah, Novocaine, that'll do it.
That'll do it. You're not going to feel much.
Nope. Because the brain is the only organ in the body that does not feel pain, and the Novocaine essentially took the pain away from cutting through the scalp. That was the only part of the pain that was caused. So patients were able to remain awake during the procedure, and Freeman and Watts could more easily monitor the effects of the cutting they were making to the brain. It also meant that patients could hear the drill as it bore into their skull, and could feel the movements of the scalpel in the brain tissue.
No.
You know when you put like an ear cleaner in?
No.
A little too deep.
They're just aware. They're just awake.
Yeah.
And their brain's just being stirred up.
I mean, it's wild what surgeries are awake for now.
But that's got to be terrifying.
I don't imagine it's pleasant.
No.
But then again, you're also high as a kite on Novocaine.
Well, yeah, that is true. You're not exactly going to be caring at that current moment.
Freeman and Watts' most famous patient was Rosemary Kennedy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people kind of know this. So, daughter of Rose and Joseph and sister to President John F. Kennedy, who is JFK.
Yes.
So, the birth of Rosemary was traumatic. While Rose had birthed her first two babies at home without complications, when she went into labour with Rosemary, a flu epidemic was raging the city and the doctor was not immediately available. This is insane, by the way. The nurse on scene had obstetrical training, but instead of delivering the baby herself, she delayed the birth by 2 hours. First by holding Rose's legs together, then by holding the baby's head and forcing it back into the birth canal.
Yep.
Causing trauma and a damaging loss of oxygen.
I wonder why. Maybe because the baby was meant to come out. Baby comes out when baby comes out.
Just push the baby back into the birth canal. The skull isn't even fused yet.
And then they're like, oh, I wonder why she has all these problems. Because from the second you were suffocating her by pushing her back inside her mother.
Like the Kennedy siblings, playwright Tennessee Williams was haunted by what happened to his own sister Rose, who had also undergone a lobotomy. Oh, so the mom of Rosemary underwent a lobotomy as well.
Really?
Yeah. Tennessee and Rose Williams were particularly close. Our love was and is the deepest in our lives, he wrote in his memoir. The following year, he described his sensation of slowly losing someone to madness. We have had no deaths in our family, but slowly by degrees, something was happening, much uglier and more terrible than death. Which is a very nice sentiment.
Yeah.
I feel, to describe that. To lose someone in that way. And by May that year, Rose was in an institution and had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. But here's an interesting case, which I'd never heard of before. The American crowbar case.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So, it's an early concept of cerebral localization was derived first from the study of a brain pathology, particularly cerebral tumors or operations for their removal, and second from the observation of dramatically altered behavior in the cerebral case of a traumatic brain injury in the frontal lobe that has come to be called the American crowbar case. Basically, injury to the brain causes brain issue.
Okay.
To summarize it in non-science words. So in 1848, a very different year to 1948,
Before the lobotomy.
Phineas P. Gage, before a construction worker, foreman.
Oh, I do know about this.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it before, do you?
Yeah, I know about this. Go on.
So he was severely injured whilst helping construct a railway line near the town of Cavendish, Vermont. The premature explosion propelled a tamping iron along by measuring 3 feet 7 inches
Yeah.
and 1.25 inch diameter through Gage's head. The 13.25 pound rod penetrated through his left cheek, traversed the middle line, and left the frontal lobe. Yeah, just a nice diagonal.
Nice diagonal straight through the front of the brain. Big rod through the brain.
He was 25 and he survived.
Yes, he did.
Wild. It's
In the
wild what the
1880
body can
When was
survive.
it? 1880 something. This is Victorian time.
48. Ah, thank you, because you know I don't know timelines. The Victorian times.
But in America. The Victorian timeline.
The mental and behavioural changes were noted by his doctor's friends and co-workers and classed as significant. From being a motivated, energetic, capable, friendly, and conscientious worker, Gage changed dramatically into an obstinate, irreverent, irresponsible, socially uninhibited individual. These changes in personality would later be recognised as frontal lobe syndrome. In the case of Gage, these changes were noticed almost immediately after the injury, not necessarily because of the personality changes, but because the patient had survived such an extensive and serious injury, which is fair. You know, you wouldn't really...
Yeah, which is fair. Rod through brain.
You would be like, let's remove the rod, then wonder if you can count to 10.
Let's make sure that he's still functional first.
So he died in 1860, which was a fair while on, and...
Yeah, it was like 20 years later.
And the doctor was able to retrieve his exhumed skull and tampering iron. Gage had continued to carry the rod wherever he went, as his constant companion. And the ghastly items were donated to Harvard Medical School's Warren Anatomical Museum in 1868. The skull and the tampering iron remain there to this day. I never heard of that.
Because it was meant to be like a complete personality shift. Like, it just completely... He went from being a lovely man to...
His friends and acquaintances said he was no longer Gage.
somebody else. So when was the last lobotomy done, do you know? Is that something you looked into?
We Google. The last lobotomy was performed on the last 1967.
The last lobotomy in the UK was performed in the late 1970s.
Well, that was America.
Yeah, well, UK, 1970s. Late 1970s.
Late 1970s. So what is interesting is that Dr. Buchart in Switzerland in 1888 removed an area of a cerebral cortex that he believed was responsible for his patient's abnormal behaviour. He followed this by performing selective resections, mostly in the temporal and parietal lobes, on 6 patients, areas of the lobes that Buchart considered responsible for his patient's aggressive behaviour and psychiatric disorders. His report was not well received by his colleagues and met with disapproval by the medical community. And then he ceased his work after that. And that was in 1888. And then in 1940, the medical community went, actually, we're okay with this morally.
Yeah, let's do this. This is fine.
So we took a nice back step, I guess.
Yeah, because why not?
The Second International Neurological Congress, held in London in 1935, was a landmark for psychosurgery. American psychologist Dr. John Fulton presented a momentous experiment in which 2 chimpanzees had bilateral resections of the prefrontal cortex. These operations were pioneering experiments in the field because the animals became devoid of emotional expression and were no longer capable of arousing of arousal of the frustrated behaviour usually seen in these animals. The behavioural changes were noted, but the full implications were not. These findings would be very important decades later when social scientists in the 1970s noted that aggressive behaviour and rage reaction were associated with low tolerance for frustration in individuals with sociopathic tendencies.
It's a mouthful.
I know. It reached its peak of popularity during World War II, which, yeah.
Checks out.
Oh my gosh. So, Moniz and Lima performed their first frontal lobotomy in 1935. The following year, Dr. Moniz presented a series of 20 patients, and by 1949 he had received a Nobel Prize for his pioneering work. A Nobel Prize.
No. No! What? Is that being revoked? Please tell me I got taken away. Can it get taken away? A Nobel Prize?
I think he died before it went out. He died in 1955, so it was still popular by then.
Lobotomies.
That's my research on lobotomies and tripping, and this has been part 2.
Part 2.
Medical history.
Medical
Opinions?
history.
Takes. How much do we hate it?
Hate it. So much
Yeah.
hate it. Big trash.
Yeah, it's not good. 0 stars.
No, maybe don't. 0 stars. Do not recommend. Don't put things in people's brains and make their brains mush. Just don't do it. It's not okay. Just because someone's sad or gay or whatever, don't do it. There's other ways. Just talk about it. Have a cup of tea. Chat it out. Don't put an ice pick in someone's eyeball and muddle their brain about, guys. It's not needed. It's not going to fix anything. It's just going to make their time a lot worse. It's mad to think how many people's lives were just effectively ruined over a 5-minute procedure.
And it's just the blasé care about it, really.
Yeah, just like, oh, well, that happened. It's like, well, yeah, that happened. Why aren't we angry that this happened? But that's the case with everything, though, isn't it? Like, stuff always goes on, and then people are like, the outrage, and then they forget about it in 5 minutes, so...
That's the changes of morals, but it does seem, going back from what other doctors were saying, that it wasn't really morally supported.
No, not really.
It was just
they still did it.
Some were trying to help.
Trying to help by putting holes in their brain.
I think a good portion weren't trying to help.
No, I think a good portion just wanted the place to be quiet, so they were like, no more people shouting about being mistreated or anything, because obviously they're lobotomized now. They can't shout.
Yeah, the mistreatment of certain groups of people throughout history is very well known and very terrible.
Yeah.
But I enjoy medical history.
Yeah, I find it interesting. It's sad, but it is like...
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's interesting.
It's just interesting. It's one of those things that it's...
Well, I just think it's one of those where it's like, obviously medicine's come so far in...
Yeah.
When you think about it, a short amount of time compared to... like humanity's existence, especially things with technology, have just improved and improved and improved. I don't know, it's like history, isn't it? You've got to look where you came from to see where you are now and to see what not to do in the future, because you don't want history to repeat itself, and often history does repeat itself. Hopefully we're educating against that. Don't get a lobotomy, guys, it's not worth it.
Well, that's been the episode. I've been Luke. That's been Shannon. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
Please.
Sorry, I'm dying. Please rate, review, and subscribe. There's Caffeine Out of Minds on Instagram, on YouTube. There's Animatics. There's Caffeine Out of Minds website where there's loads of bloopers and bonuses and stuff like that.
There's so much stuff. There's really old pictures and that.
Announcements, all our other projects are on there. We want to keep adding stuff. Next time, what's your research topic? Witchcraft?
Oh, that was one of the ones I was wanting to do. When are we recording? When are we next recording? Watch it. It'll just be me having a meltdown. Like, the next episode will be me having a meltdown about the stresses of moving. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.